Hello there, and welcome to the Construction Revolution podcast. My name is Stephen Rossi, and here on the show, we explore the latest trends, technologies, people, and organizations that are revolutionizing or disrupting the construction industry and are changing what the industry will look like tomorrow. Today, we're excited to welcome Josh Levy, co-founder and CEO of Document Crunch, a contract intelligence platform transforming how construction professionals understand and manage risk. With a background in construction law and a passion for innovation, Josh has helped lead Document Crunch to become a trusted tool for thousands of projects across North America. Join us as we explore how Document Crunch is leveraging AI to simplify complex contracts, reduce disputes, and empower teams to make smarter decisions faster and with greater confidence. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you today, Stephen?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to learn more about Document Crunch and hear your story. I've seen the company at lots of trade shows, so I'm excited to finally learn more about it.
I'm excited to tell you about it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, other than my favorite sports teams or my family. I think this is at the top of my list.
Oh, that's good to hear. So why don't we start off, and then you can tell me the story of how you started Document Crunch and where you got the idea for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't come to this with a technology background, so I have been in the construction industry my whole career. Started out in undergrad at the University of Florida, go Gators, as a construction management major. And decided I didn't want to, be a project manager after working with a bunch of big general contractors. So I did what a lot of confused kids do in the U.S., and I went to law school. And even though I tried to broaden my horizons, when I graduated law school, macroeconomic conditions in 2010 were that the economy was in the tank. But there was one very hot area in South Florida where I was living, having graduated from the University of Miami, and that was construction litigation, because during the bubble leading up to 2010, all these buildings were built in the Miami area, and they were all in litigation. So anyway, that construction degree became a lottery ticket for me, because none of my peers could get jobs coming out of law school. I landed in a great job at a great law firm, doing construction litigation work. And that practice, exclusive construction practice, quickly evolved over time to me starting to handle more of the day-to-day in-project issues that were arising on behalf of big clients, and then continued to evolve into a transactional practice where I was, negotiating and assessing risk on the front end of projects. So that skill set or that practice was very attractive for me to make the leap to go in-house. And so 10 years ago, J.E. Dunn Construction, an E&R top 20 contractor based in Kansas City, but with a really big footprint in the Southeast, they brought me to Atlanta. This is in that 2015 timeframe. So I went in-house there, and again, like a lot of construction companies, J.E. Dunn was just growing like a weed coming out of that downturn now, right? So 2010, downturn still in full force and effect. By about 2013, 2014, things started opening up again, and these construction companies are all going gangbusters. So it was like a period of high growth at J.E. Dunn, and I really got embedded in the business side, really applying that skill set that I'd gained in private practice, but really being more tightly coupled to the business. And, I had growth at J. Dunn, and the business grew a lot. And I found myself in a situation where I was then running the legal department in the Southeast, and revenue was going up, and all of our bid activity was going up. And we needed to hire more resources to work with me. And I was overwhelmed with the deal flow, frankly. And so I started reading about this stuff called artificial intelligence about 7-8 years ago, and how law firms were starting to use it to speed up their diligence on like big matters. And I quickly realized two things. First light bulb moment for me is like, why is there nothing purpose built for construction? So that was like an aha, like, Josh, you need help. And there's like automation that exists for legal professionals, and this could help amplify and scale you as an individual legal professional. But the bigger realization, Stephen, that I had was like, you can kind of see I'm in an office here. I've got glass windows in front of me, or glass doors in front of me, and I had this similar kind of a setup at J Dunn, and I would have a line of people outside my office every single day, hard hat in one hand, piece of paper in the other hand. Something had happened on the job site and they needed help. And they'd come into my office, and I knew that that was a bad thing, because whether I negotiated a good contract or a bad contract, the reality is that like 50% of construction contracts are finishing over budget, which means that 50% of the time someone is going to have to pay more than they thought they would to complete that project. And there's a lot of confusion that happens at the project level, because even when you have resources like me sitting in an office like this negotiating those deals, the people running the job site every single day, are going through everyday workflows that require a working knowledge of the contract documents, not just the boilerplate contract template, but all these other complex documents. I mean, we're called contractors. It's for a reason. Contract and contract documents are at the core of everything our industry does. And you have this big disconnect between, folks like me that are setting up the projects and the folks that need to run those projects. And the failure to administer those projects every day is where the risk is. So I was at, a top 20 contractor that had this investment in all this legal and risk management, like kind of like the most robust approach. But 99% of this really large industry doesn't even have anyone sitting like me in the back office, let alone even the ones that do. They don't have adequate protection for folks in the field that are left to essentially be working every day without a digital hard hat. And so this is where so much of our risk is. And like, so that led to me founding Document Crunch. I will share with you that was what was in my gut, 7 years ago. We've since come to learn through like third-party industry studies that what I just described to you, disputes are like the nuclear option for all project stakeholders, right? You never want to dispute on your project. Aside from, loss of profit and problems, these are the things that derail people's careers. These are the things that make companies not want to work together again. This isn't just general contractors and trade partners. This is lenders, this is owners, this is architects, this is engineers, this is insurance carriers. All of these stakeholders all have an interest in not having big blow-ups on their projects. Recently, this kind of gut-like feeling has kind of been validated by third-party research. The two primary reasons for disputes in our industry, which is a quickly growing problem, but the two primary reasons are inconsistent contract documents and the failure of project participants to administer those documents appropriately. So kind of this gut reaction that I was having 7 years ago has since been validated. These are actually the number one and number two underlying root causes of disputes. So I think about this idea. I think about like our industry going through this safety movement, some odd years ago, where we just stopped accepting that injuries were okay on job sites. It's not, and so everyone in our industry has rallied around this culture that like one injury is one injury too many. We're not just okay with construction being inherently unsafe. And while that's an ambitious plan, or an ambitious idea, it's caused us to adopt best practices, to take preventative measures, to celebrate working safely, to do all these things. And I think we have the same exact opportunity with preventing disputes and claims in our industry, with the same type of idea: preventative measures, best practices, clear communication and celebration around working safely. We can do the same thing as it pertains to disputes. And that's the mission and the vision for Document Crunch. We see a construction industry that has zero disputes and better relationships as a result of it. And so that's kind of the journey that I've been on the last, started working on this kind of in stealth 7 years ago, have been full-time as the CEO for just about 5 years now.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, yeah, thanks for the details. It's interesting to see the sort of path all the way from like almost being a PM to now that on the other side of it. Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of great points. To touch on like sort of the safety? And yeah, obviously we've made a lot of progress there. Um, and you touched on like the issues of so many stakeholders are involved, and that can cause a lot of issues, especially on the legal side. So I am wondering, like, document crunch is used on various phases of projects by different teams, all different stakeholders are involved. So I'm wondering, who are your main actual customers and how do they use the platform? And then also, how are all those other stakeholders involved in document crunch? And do you ever have issues trying to appeal to all of them?
So look, the core customer base as it exists today is general contractors and trade partners, really of all sizes. And they're using us across three phases of the project today. So in the bid pursuit phase, you start to think about, whether it's attorneys, risk managers, business developers, back office professionals. They're using us to win more of the right jobs, right? We can accelerate the review of RFP docs and contract docs and specifications. We can standardize the risk evaluation, and we can really prioritize like chasing more profitable work, because part of it is not all jobs are the same and you don't want to get stuck with the poop sandwich. And so we can help you like quickly understand whether a job is even worth pursuing. And that was kind of the original use case. Where we've evolved into is now in the pre-construction phase, estimators, pre-construction professionals, project controls professionals, operations professionals are setting up the project to ensure success. Like, so, you think about starting to bridge like just the initial like go, no go against like, well, have we truly reviewed the specs appropriately? Is this contract that we're negotiating fair? Starting to bridge that back office and field, equipping teams with knowledge and ensuring that like best practices and standard operating procedures are being instilled as you set the project up. And then finally, there's the construction phase where, project executives, project managers, project engineers are starting to use us for real-time risk controls. So, very quickly getting answers to information, empowering them to make good decisions. You're getting yelled at in the job trailer by the owner about whether something is allowable as markup on a change order, and we can just help you have confidence to like win that micro argument in real time, so that you don't have to go to the back to my office and be like, what do we do? And so this really helps foster team alignment. And so we're really working across those three phases: pursuit, pre-con, construction today, and predominantly being used by general contractors and trade partners. But there's also a broadening use case. We've got major insurance underwriters already using us kind of to help assess risks. We have some architects and engineers using us kind of in that bid pursuit and pre-construction phase as well. You've got some developers starting to onboard onto this. And what we're really building in the long run, Stephen, is this really a risk reduction platform, so that all of these stakeholders, when inevitably something happens on the job site, because there's inconsistent project documents and there's an inability of folks to properly administer them, we want to create a global system of accountability so that all these stakeholders have very like clear understanding as to who's responsible and who did what to gain entitlement. And if we can provide that transparency to all these stakeholders, guess what? No rational actor is going to throw good money after bad money. That's the point. Like, yeah, sometimes you are responsible for a mistake, so you should just pay to move on, not go spend a ton of money fighting over something stupid and burn up your profit margins and your relationship, your social capital with these other stakeholders. And that's what we're really building over the long run.
Okay. Yeah, that's an exciting future. I think, yeah, bringing it all together would definitely see the benefit there. So I think you touched on this a little bit in your first answer, but I'm going to dive into it a little bit deeper. So how does document crunch differ from like a traditional mitigation approach? So whether that's in a big company, like you mentioned, where it's a team like you were at before, or a smaller company where they may not even have a big legal team, or if they just have any like sort of generic law software out there.
Yeah, we're not really trying to replace humans, but we can amplify risk management. So I don't know, like I think about it a lot like, you've got a modem probably hardwired into your office there somewhere. But I'm assuming then you've got wireless routers that can, and then maybe you've got more, depending on how big the space is, so that grid of wireless connectivity is amplified. I think about us as the same way. Like it's an approach that we can really help amplify and make easier the approach to risk management while making folks more productive in their day-to-day workflows. So it's kind of a win-win. Like, I think a lot of software makes you more productive, and that's great. We can do that too. But I think the real value is, and what I think is priceless about what we're doing is now you have the opportunity to not only be more productive, but work safer while being more productive. So like that's how I think about it.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So for people on site, like you mentioned, like this helping people like PMs and people who are on the field who probably didn't go to law school. How does Document Crunch allow them to digest those super complex documents and make decisions based off that?
Yeah, look, it's been curated. You understand my background now. So my ethos is nobody ever opens up a document to review without Document Crunch having a perspective on what they're looking at or what the workflow, how like a best practice like should be done. So we're automatically arming them. It's like a cheat code so that they already have a perspective. And then of course there's just like a lot of the instant access to information, which I think AI has made, accessible for anybody. But I think that while that is certainly a part of what we're doing, I think the idea of like us being able to be more proactive and arming them with insights. Like I always believe our ethos, Stephen, is if you have to ask Document Crunch a question, we can answer it, but that should be an area of last resort because we help you using the subject matter expertise embedded into our solution before you even have to ask the question. So you're automatically smarter opening up Document Crunch than probably you would be if you didn't.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually interesting. So from going back to sort of how you built it then, how like AI obviously built on tons of data and stuff, how did you actually go about collecting all that data, teaching and developing the model that Document Crunch is built on?
Yeah, it's been a long run, right? It's the better part of a decade now, but we started with a small data set, but I think the cool and we got and we used, I would say, predecessor AI technology to what exists today, which is like a lot more powerful. So that's like we've definitely been the beneficiary of the technological advances that have been made. But what's happened today, Stephen, I feel pretty confident saying this, is we've got one of the most unique, if not the most robust data set right now of construction contracts, maybe in planet Earth. And so that model, which is finely tuned on, our own data, continues to just get smarter and smarter and smarter every day. And I think what you'll see in the next period of time is us starting to help educate the industry based on some of that proprietary data so that not only our model is getting smarter, but that our users are getting smarter alongside the model.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's super exciting. I think, the latest involvements with AI are definitely helping companies like you who are already using it. It just makes it easier to scale and easier to improve.
Yeah. And I think, look, there's like a little bit of this like appetite that's emerged in our industry, which is like everyone wants to buy AI. And I would caution, anyone to just get totally wrapped around the technology itself versus the solution. And so one area that I think is super important about what we have been able to do is we created a superior product before this technology went gangbusters because I was so focused on solving the problem space that we talked about. You didn't hear me talk about AI when I told you why I founded this. You heard me talk about a problem that I'm very uniquely, I guess qualified or to solve or have a perspective around based on, my decade plus of experience in this field. And, I like, as I'm sure you can tell, I like analogies. So I like to remind everybody that we created a really strong bicycle that people were using and really liked before the e-bike came out. And at the end of the day, you could get really excited about e-bikes, but at the end of the day, we are a bike company that has now benefited because the e-bike is now a thing. But we created a bike before the e-bike became a thing. And I would just challenge everybody, like, make sure that you hold yourselves and your vendors accountable to, like, what problems are they solving? The technology should be secondary to the problem, but certainly we have benefited by the technology making our value proposition even more valuable.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. Like, we shouldn't be using AI just for the sake of saying we're using AI. We're looking to actually improve processes and solve problems.
When we started this company, we were actually incentivized to not talk about AI because people were so skeptical of it back then. So all of the burden actually was making sure that we had a solution that just worked and worked to solve a problem that we were talking about. And that was the entire go to market. If anything, I mean, because we're a business and there's such an appetite for AI, we've become a little bit more AI forward in the last few years. But the truth is that I think we're over indexing as an industry a little bit there. We should still stay very problem focused. But if you're in the market for AI, we are a proven AI solution. So anyway.
For sure. So can you share a specific example that stands out to you of a case where you've helped a customer avoid a major delay or dispute, something like that?
Yeah, and you can go ahead and read. There's so much out there, and that's the other thing, Stephen. Like, rather than us just make empty promises, like I would encourage our users, like go on our website and start reading some of these case studies. But I'll give you one that just came across my plate recently. We had a contractor that told us that they were in the pre-construction phase. They were working through some buyout, and like, I'm going to botch this a little, but like a second elevator shaft was specified somewhere in the documents that it shouldn't have been. And the pre-construction team was able to catch that and buy it out appropriately. Where if they didn't buy it out appropriately, like if they didn't kind of bring it up to the forefront, it would have been a miss on them, and maybe they wouldn't have been responsible for it. Maybe the trade contractor who was involved would have been responsible, but their point to us was that would have caused a very contentious moment for us and the trade contractors. So you saved us like a pretty big argument where maybe, it was our fault, maybe it wasn't. But why do we need to even subject ourselves to that? We just want our trade contractors to pick up the right stuff, to price it, and for us to go execute. And that's like a great example, just like where confusion can lead to problems and eroded relationships. Even if you were right, even if it wasn't your responsibility, is it really worth having a fight over? Of course not. We have enough complex stuff on our plates as contractors.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. Yeah, definitely. You don't need to, like you mentioned, the relationship and the time as well, just to go through, and money to go through all that is definitely not worth it if we can avoid it. All right, so looking ahead then, how do you see Document Crunch evolving over, let's say, the next 5 years? And is there anything exciting that you're working on maybe in the shorter term that you can share?
Yeah, I'll share with you that like there's definitely an eye toward us continuing to crunch more and more documents. We recently tackled specifications, and frankly have a world-class product geared towards specifications that has just taken off in the industry. I think the next natural area that people ask me about all the time are drawings, and we're starting to think about that as well. But that's like a more near term. I think bigger picture, Stephen, we think that we can get even more proactive around risk management. We think that, democratizing knowledge is one thing, helping apply that knowledge in real time, proactively in response to external data is like the next level of risk management. And then again, I think about just this connected platform where all of these stakeholders have a system of accountability. And that's really where we're going in the long run. I think you'll see some major product announcements coming from this company toward the end of this year into early next year, where the full expression of the platform that I'm describing will be launched.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super exciting to hear. I think that's the future of a lot of companies in the industry in general, like being connected more across the entire life cycle of the building and everything. I think that's definitely where we're moving as an industry.
Absolutely.
All right. So then, what are some exciting innovations that you've seen in the industry apart from Document Crunch and the legal side? Are there other things that you've encountered, like being out in the field or at events or anything that really excites you?
You're talking about from like a technology standpoint?
Primarily, yeah.
Yeah, I think the global observation that I have right now is like we're in this really interesting like proliferation of solutions because AI is so powerful. And so I think that it's like mushrooms popping up all over the field. There's a ton of great stuff out there, and I've got some friends that are doing some really neat things. I think that so that's what I'm most excited about. Like, this industry can be more profitable. this industry can benefit so much from this very powerful technology that is out there that can be pointed to like real industry solutions, especially when you start to think about like the profit margins that we have and the labor shortages that we have. I think those are like two areas that could greatly be bolstered by this like technological revolution that is going on. So I'm really just excited about that globally. I think that there is a potential downside to that is that I think we have over-indexed a little bit in our lust for technology over like really tight solutions. And I just hope that I think it's a responsibility that I bear as a founder in this space. And I would hope that my peers would feel the same. And I know a lot of them do, but I see some that may not. I hope that we can bring this industry to a brighter future by delivering and not over-promising. And bringing this industry to that brighter future, it's not a 0 to 100 thing. It's an industry where, technology and commercial appetite are not always the same. And so I think that part of commercial appetite is, reliable, provable outcomes, not just false promises and like vision setting. And so I think the thing I'm excited about is, yes, there's a lot of really cool things out there. The thing that I'm equally concerned about is, are we going to get too drunk on like empty promises and not be strong enough on substance?
Right. Yeah. I think that in any tech revolution, in any industry, that's definitely can be a problem with all these new things emerging. And in the construction industry, I think the challenge is being able to, as you mentioned, like actually have those things in place, because we can't take major risk on new technology and critical infrastructure projects.
Yep.
So to wrap up here then, can you, for anyone who's interested in learning more about Document Crunch or getting started, where should they go and what does that initial process look like?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to connect with me, Josh Levy, on LinkedIn, or, documentcrunch.com. There's a ton of information there. It's pretty easy. We've got a great team in place. We've got, world-class kind of customer retention and satisfaction. And everyone, you know my background. The ethos of this company is we just want to help our industry. I see so much opportunity. So I think we've made it pretty easy to get information and get started with us. We're a pretty responsive company, whether it's on our website or on social media. So just reach out, and if we can be helpful in any way, let us know.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights. And it's great to hear your story and learn more about Document Crunch.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steven.